Before we begin this video, I'd like to inform you all that I have recently made a new channel to start over my career on YouTube, after my old channel, Noah Spongy, basically ruined my personal life in a way that's too lengthy to explain. So if you subscribe to the old channel, it will be useless to both you and me, since you won't get new videos over there and I won't get new subscribers on my current channel. Click the link in the description or the link during the end cards if you want to subscribe to my new channel, Noah David.
Previously on the SpongeBob SquarePants Season 9B review. The first couple episodes of this half-season show some major improvements to the show. The characters act like they should, the animation has gotten a major upgrade, and a lot of the jokes are really funny. However, a few problems with pacing and filler are dragging these episodes down from being as good as the first 3 seasons. Let's see if things can improve as we look at the next 8 episodes of Season 9B.
Also, I'm here too.
Want to see the rest of the video? Well, since Viacom blocked this video no matter how we edited the footage, you're going to have to do one of two things. You can either click the link in the description to watch this video in its original form on Google Drive, or you can keep watching this video for an audio-only version of the review. We're very sorry about this inconvenience, especially since we didn't run into this problem with uploading part 1. But after trying to upload 2 versions of this video on YouTube, this is the only way we can show the video to you guys. Anyway, here's an audio-only version of part 2 of the Season 9B review.
Let's begin with the episode SpongeBob Longpants, which, sheesh, I think might be the worst we've covered so far. Don't get me wrong, there are good moments and some alright scenes, but let's just commence my rant. First off, there are so many filler scenes in this episode. We didn't need to see SpongeBob as a cashier or a Maytai or D. We didn't need him to get a driver's license and show a cutaway gag that's somehow incredibly inconsistent with the time of day, and all that fancy people stuff was pretty much forgotten 2 minutes before the episode ended. Plus, there's a lot of plot holes like, why couldn't SpongeBob take off his pants at the end? What is it about a longer pant leg that makes everyone in Bikini Bottom treat SpongeBob like a grown-up? There's no main dilemma, there's no focus, there's no consistency. I'm surprised that I liked this episode on first viewing. In fact, I think the 2 Squarepants are not just Squarepants, just this plot much better. Or at least that one's better structurally. Besides the beginning, it makes sense why Patrick wouldn't recognize him. Plus there's an actual focused conflict, and the story flows at least better than this. I'm not saying that that was a good episode, but in all its insipidness, at least it knew to keep itself stable. Overall, SpongeBob Longpants isn't painful, but everything about it is so noticeably broken. One thing I'll say is the table is a cinematic masterpiece with many endearing traits and incredibly quotable scenes. Such perfection.
This episode seems to have the opposite problems that 2 Squarepants, or not to have an obnoxiously long title, had. Longpants starts the plot up right away, and then throws in the filler in the middle, while 2 Squarepants puts its filler at the beginning, which causes the plot to start midway through. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would honestly go with Longpants. Yes, 2 Squarepants had more of a focus with what SpongeBob does after he gets his new pants, but it's also really boring, has stupid plot contrivances, and a main story that doesn't really relate to SpongeBob having new pants. SpongeBob Longpants actually has kind of a point to it, with all the scenes relating to everyone in town treating SpongeBob like a man because he has longer pants. The idea behind this plot is a bit ridiculous, but in a show like this, I can totally buy it. However, a lot of scenes like the one with the driving test don't really add up towards the finale and make quite a bit of the episode seem pointless. The finale itself drags on for too long. For absolutely no reason at all, SpongeBob can't get his long pants off, and it takes multiple attempts and a conversation with Mr. Krabs for it to finally happen. This episode isn't a laugh riot, but there are a couple of good jokes like the one we mentioned before, and the reactions to SpongeBob's new duds are pretty funny too. I don't dislike this episode to the level that Noah does, but I agree that it's mediocre overall. It's nice to see Larry get a comeback in this season.
Congratulations on the new girlfriend, dude!
Not only does he play a big role in Squid Plus One, but he also has his very own episode in the form of Larry's Gym, where, surprise surprise, Larry opens a gym. There he takes SpongeBob in as his protege and tries to get him into shape because he's a wimp, which is an aspect of SpongeBob's character that hasn't really been explored since Season 1. It's a fine episode with some good jokes, some of which, like the one at the ribbon cutting ceremony, which are really funny. A lot of this stuff going on in the background of this episode really works, but its attempts to have a real plot don't end in great results. Larry gets out of shape while running the gym, but just doing a few crunches revert him back to his original form. It's a lazy way to go back to the status quo, and it isn't consistent with the rest of the episode. If doing a few crunches was able to get Larry back into shape, then why didn't the same thing permanently happen to SpongeBob? I guess it's because he's a sponge, but the episode didn't really make that point apparent. Other than that, Larry's Gym is a fine episode with some good jokes and a harmless twist. Not the best, but still pretty enjoyable.
I agree, this really isn't anything special, but I think there are some great gags here, especially with Mr. Krabs, and I don't entirely mind the ending, though it is really badly written and acted for some reason.
Oh boy, the way you laugh really gets on my nerves.
Up next is the Fishbowl, which is a pretty mixed bag. I don't mind the squid torture, and some of the things that Sandy says are pretty funny, but Patrick's jerkiness, no matter how much to give comeuppance for it, really doesn't feel comfortable here, as that part of the episode almost feels like a season 6 through 8 episode. Plus, most of the jokes made here are really cheap and mostly puns, and others are just incredibly unnecessary. Also, counting sand is such a tedious thing to watch, I have no clue why they put it in. Also, for quite a bit of the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick act extremely loud, childish, and annoying, but then they start acting like themselves, for the most part, during the Patrick in charge stuff. Overall, this episode really seems like it was told that it needed reworking when they put it together, but then the crew decided it was fine as is.
When I heard the premise of this episode, I knew that it was going to be interesting. Unlike previous episodes where Patrick acting like a jerk was just a side effect of bad writing, it's intentional in this episode and one of its main focuses. I know that the Fishbowl gets a lot of crap for Patrick's actions here, but I feel that he is handled well. I'd say that this is a better version of Rule of Dumb, where Patrick gets power and abuses it. I feel that his behavior is justified here through the mix of his low intellect and power going to his head, which we literally see in the episode. Patrick becomes a jerk for a logical reason, not just because it fit the story. And even if you really hate this episode, Patrick apologizes to SpongeBob in the end, so you can tell that the writers at least tried to make Patrick likable. On the other hand, I don't like how Sandy's experimenting on her friends again. It felt out of character in SpongeBob You're Fired, and it feels out of character here, even if she didn't expect the results she got. It's also a little odd for Squidward to be so enthusiastic about ice cream. You would think that Squidward would feel that he is above such childish behavior, and with the ice cream being free, I thought that Mr. Krabs was going to show up. But instead, they squeezed in some light Squidward torture, which is just kinda there. As for the rest of the episode, it's okay. Outside of some creative character animation, not a ton made me laugh, and it's not particularly memorable. I agree that the Fishbowl is a mixed episode, but Patrick is not the one acting out of character here. Married to Money is another Plankton disguises himself as X to get the formula episode that we've seen over and over again. But I think that this one may be up there with Imitation Krabs, since it shakes things up and has something we rarely see in SpongeBob. After Mr. Krabs admits that he would actually marry Money, Plankton proves himself to be the master of disguise, dressing up as a sentient female wad of bills named Kashina, who Krabs falls in love with and eventually marries. What I like about this episode is how it kind of has an emotional side, touching on how Mr. Krabs is alone. When he discovers that Kashina was just one of Plankton's schemes, Krabs is devastated, so much so that he doesn't even bother to send his nemesis packing. This bittersweet ending sets the episode apart from the ones similar to it, and it makes it pretty good in my book.
I agree, this is a great episode. This episode mixes great jokes, breathtaking coloring and visuals, incredible emotion, and puts it all into a really good change of pace for the Plankton Disguise episodes. I can actually relate to Pearl in this, and her reactions are very fair, because I do know what it feels like to have one of your parents find a new lover. Definitely one of the best we've covered. Next episode is Mall Girl Pearl, which is another episode that I don't hate Pearl in. She holds up the plot pretty well, and she's pretty likable. I find it cool having an episode that SpongeBob is barely in favor of focusing on side characters. The guest voices did a pretty good job, and the background cameos were amazing, but the episode was a bit too story-heavy and slow-paced, and the jokes put in are few and far between. Still, the eye candy and the pretty good writing keep me from calling this a bad episode.
I would say that this episode is pretty good all around, as there's a lot to like here. I like how it gives personalities to all Pearl's friends. I like how alive the mall feels with details like SpongeBob's story happening in the background and all the cameos. I like Betty White's Beatrice character and her action scene. And I like the part where the small fish gets fried in a hot dog fryer. Probably my favorite thing here is how the message of the episode is foreshadowed. Midway through, after Pearl's friends mock her for getting a job at a grandma store, Beatrice shows Pearl a scrapbook that shows her that the opinions of her friends will eventually change. I didn't think about it until I wrote this review, but that's exactly what ends up happening in the episode. It's a nice subtle touch that can easily fly under your radar when you watch it. Two Thumbs Down is just a fantastic episode all around. When SpongeBob gives the thumbs up a bit too much, his thumbs break, and he has to find a way to fix both his thumbs and his spirit. I can't think of anything that this episode does wrong. The plot is structured really well with foreshadowing and the right amount of setup. It's got some creative visuals and montages, the song is really fun, it's got some great jokes and action, and there's even a heartwarming moment between Sandy and SpongeBob, even if it's supposed to be taken as parody. There is not any other episode of SpongeBob like this, and it makes this one really special. I'd highly recommend 2 thumbs down above all the episodes we have looked at so far. It does just about everything right, and it is the episode that I would show to people to prove to them that SpongeBob is improving.
I definitely agree with all of your points, except the fact that the ending was a bit rushed. I think that you expressed my thoughts exactly. Next episode is Sharks vs. Pods, which is still absolutely incredible. I love what they did with their guest stars and the references they made to old movies. I love those guest-directed dance sequences and the Kung Fu rock song. There were great jokes and great pacing. The twist, while kind of forced, fit pretty well when you watch it again, and it's overall an incredibly entertaining episode.
Sharks v Pods Dawn of Dance Gangs is another unique and solid episode. It takes full advantage of its guest stars by shaping the music and plot around their most famous roles. They get some good comedy out of the premise, as well as some fun music and visuals during the climax, which takes the form of a dance battle. The twist of the sharks being a dance trope is a bit of a forced twist, but the sequence that follows it is one of the best of the season, so I really don't mind. Overall, I find Sharks vs. Pods to be a really great episode, and it's one of the best guest star episodes that SpongeBob has done so far. Up next is CopyBob DittoPants, and I found it to be pretty good. Not exactly top 10 episodes of the series material like Noah does, but still pretty good. Plankton makes clones of SpongeBob using one of those evil copy machines that you only see in cartoons, and uses said clones to try and get the Krabby Patty's secret formula. It's a simple premise, but the episode gets some good mileage out of the idea, with the other characters having some pretty funny reactions to them.
Life is but a walking shadow.
Again, there could have been a little more comedy here, but other than that, this episode is pretty good. I know that I keep saying that, but I cannot think of much more to say about this episode except for the following. The only things I take issue with here is that Squidward going crazy is something we've already seen in the season, and is something we'll see early on in Season 10 too. I don't dislike his scenes here, but with what comes before and after in mind, they just feel a little unoriginal.
After rewatching this episode, it's actually a bit less funny than I remember it being. Seriously, not top 10 material or even 10 out of 10 material. The gags aren't that funny, but the creative premise and enjoyable story make this episode perfectly fine for me. Also, Plankton gave up way too easily in this episode. He still has SpongeBob's digital DNA, so can't he make more copies and trick Mr. Krabs again? I mean, Mr. Krabs still doesn't know Plankton did it, and if Plankton got rid of the real SpongeBob for a while, he could easily get it. I'm probably thinking too deeply into this, but I just wish that there was a less confusing ending to it all. Overall, it's perfectly fine. Next episode is Sold, which is a pretty funny episode. There isn't much to it, but there's lots of really out there gags that work incredibly well. I love Squidward going back and forth. I like his song at the beginning. I love the visual gags. I love the stuff with them believing the commercial. I love the trash house. I also like the fact that they made Patrick smarter than usual in this, like saying that his home's not for sale and telling Squidward that there is no electric clarinet. I really don't have much else to say except that it's a really entertaining episode.
The first thing I thought after watching this episode is that it felt like it was lifted straight out of the first 3 seasons. That's mostly in part to the comedy being so strong all throughout. I got a kick out of stuff like SpongeBob's German accent, and the ending was pretty clever too. SpongeBob and Patrick are also the perfect balance between ignorant and dumb here, and that justifies all of their actions too. While SpongeBob and Patrick being too literal about one thing they heard on TV, and characters running between locations to satisfy others were concepts done in previous episodes, they were done really well here and made Sold exclamation point! A fresh but familiar feeling experience. Huh, that sounds like a slogan for an energy drink or something.
Yeah, it does. And it tastes delicious. Delicious.
Lame and Fortune is not lame, but I don't feel fortunate to have watched it either. It's a very middle-of-the-road episode, where the plot is fine, but there just aren't a lot of jokes. The plot itself of Plankton taking advantage of Mr. Krabs' new accurate fortune cookies is fine. It's just that outside of a few moments, the humor doesn't really shine, and that's what makes this episode alright in my opinion.
I actually quite disagree with you on this one. I personally found this episode to be packed with loads of incredible jokes, both visual and dialogue based. The plot was creative, Plankton's parts were funny, I liked the my leg gag, it was overall a lot of fun. Only complaint I have is, like CopyBob DittoPants, Plankton gave up way too easily yet again. I'm not too sure why he gave up exactly, since all he did was get stepped on until he screamed, "I have had enough!" He could have easily gotten the formula, it was right there. But still, this episode is really good in a lot of ways. So that's the end of part 2. Part 3 will probably come out in late February after Factory Fresh, or Goodbye Krabby Patty as it is now known as, has aired, and we're able to write our thoughts on the final 5 Season 9B episodes. So just be patient until then. While you wait, remember to subscribe to my new channel, Noah David, for some possible new things, because as of the time of writing and recording this, I haven't thought of many good ideas. And subscribe to Nintendo for more reviews and analysis videos. That's all for now, so stay tuned. Now I believe Nick is going to do a song cover to one-up me after last video. Take it away, and I'll see you all next time. See ya, bye!
Thumbs are opposable. Thumbs are great. We share them with the monkeys and with the apes. You can grab, you can tie, you can pinch a cheek. But without your thumbs, you're all thumbs. All thumbs, no thumbs. Busted up your thumbs. Sucking on your pinky will sure look dumb. You can never hitch a ride or pull out a plum. Without your thumbs, you're all thumbs. All thumbs, no thumbs. Feels like a crime. Can't pull up a zipper or flip a dime. And forget about chopsticks, you'll starve every time. Without your thumbs, you're all thumbs. Thumbs, 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 thumbs. But without your thumbs, you're all thumbs.